Hi guys, tell me this looks familiar. Is this a familiar sight or what? Well, it's been about a month later. And I was surprised because I thought I said it recently that I was milking this repair, but I figured a month's not too bad, really, considering the amount of repairs I did. I'm going to go over what I did, and I'm going to show you what it's finished, and I'll let you know all the repairs that I did. I inspected the water pump. I did not change it because it was like brand new. The rubber was still good on the impeller. The gear case had relatively clean oil in it, no water, so I just left it. I polished the prop. I took the acorn nut off the prop and put a regular bullet on there. I just like the look better. I think the acorn nuts were up to 1955. They used the acorn nuts on the 15s. And the earlier 14-horse fast twins in the early 50s. But anyway, I want to show you what I've done. I got everything's complete now. The steering was fixed. The tilt was fixed. And let me get the cover off. I got all the screws holding the cover back on the way it should be. I even replaced the emblem on the other side because it was missing. It now has an emblem. Luckily, I had one without stealing it off another cover. Just happened to have one laying around. Well, let me take the two screws out and the choke knob off, and I'll show you where I'm at. What I did actually, I dug up the correct knob, although it should be painted white, but that's okay. And I made some screws for the cover from regular cheesehead screws I had. I just ground a point on the ends so they're easy to start, just like the originals. Here we go. One, two, three. Ta-da! So after about a month's worth of work, it's rebuilt, painted. I have not run it yet. I will run it before this video is over. Or whatever happens, blow it up. Go through really fast what I did to this. Basically, I changed the crankshaft. I changed one piston and rod from the other block, like I stated in my last video. I changed the upper half of the carburetor because where the float pin mounted, the bosses were corroded away almost to nothing. I changed one coil, thinking I had a bad ignition coil, but it wasn't. I had a bad set of points. I freed up the gear shifter. So now it shifts, and freed up the steering and the tilt to tilt it up. Here's your tension bolt right here. And through the center there in the bottom is your steering friction, the screw inside of here. Most of you people know about it, and I also replaced the tiller, gear shaft and gear, because this was all missing. I think it's supposed to have a red indicator band, but this is the one that was on there. The airbox was missing too. In the original video, I had no airbox, so I put that on there. And what else? Cleaned up the grip because somebody glued the cowling grip on there with contact cement. Took me about an hour to clean all the rubber off the pans. What else? Did a lot of banging on the cover too. Somebody somebody actually mounted this hook on the opposite side of the screw on this side. So I'd take the screw out and put the hook on the inside. And they had a bolt in here, a 1024 bolt holding the latch on. The original pin has a circlip, and they would note it to pop off with wear. But somebody tapped a hole in there. So I said, hey, I just took a clevis bolt and I ground it, and I put a screw slot in the bottom of it instead of just taking another pin from another cover. And I made my own bolt. Actually, they should have made them like that from the factory instead of having just a circlip holding them in, because that, it's not as strong. But I spent, a good hour banging on this cover, knocking dents out, doing all those kind of things. Whoops, kicked it with my foot, sorry. Another little repair I'm going to do down here. The pieces, I have the piece that came off of here. I got to do something with this, either grind it, square it off, or do something, or put the pieces back in with some JB Weld. But, a lot of work, but I will not deny it. Again, I do this as a hobby. I enjoy it. It's fun. It should start right up. I didn't do any compression checks on it or nothing. But it has, I put 2 new rings on each piston, the outer 2, and 1 old one on the bottom on both. Again, I changed the rod and piston on one because I cracked the piston pressing it out, pressing the rod out of the block. That's what I think I did initially with my press, because the machine, it slipped on me. But anyway, I changed the bypass covers back to the original bypass covers, cleaned up all the mount hardware. It was all rusty. Screws, what else? Polished the upper indicator band on here, indicator number 1. And this isn't correct. I found out somebody did this, but the screw is frozen in there. I didn't want to take a chance breaking it. I should have addressed this before I painted it. Then I would have put it back on the head where it belongs. But it seems okay like this. They're tucked in nice, and it should be all right. Again, I'm a stickler for originality. I like to put everything back the way it is. And so I'm going to run it. That's the only thing next to do. And again, I'm not sure if I'm going to paint the bottom, get my wet blaster going. I had some problems with that, as I explained, but it should work. And that's it. Next video should be me trying to start this thing. Wish me luck. All right. Till next time. Well, here I'm getting ready to try to start it for the first time. Wish me luck. I just pumped it up. My pressure tank fitting's leaking a little bit, so I got a rag there. And let's see if I can get it to do something. I don't have any water in the tank yet. I just want to see if I can kick it over. Then I'll fill the tank up. That's good enough for me. All right. Another motor being brought back from the dead. Let me go fill this tank up. So here I'd just like to say, after initially trying to start the motor, all hell broke loose after this short video clip you just saw. I couldn't get the motor to run. It was really aggravating, almost to the point where I was going to put the electric starter on there and instead of yanking it. And I just started to troubleshoot it. And the first of one main problem was the culprit, which took me a while after that initial start up there in the previous clip. It took me a while to find it. Just found it 2 days ago. And the engine is purrs like a kitten. But I would just like to mention this before I show you some more repairs that I did, and I'm going to show you the actual problem with the throttle cam. So this carburetor issue has been driving me crazy for the last week or so. I could not understand why, no matter what I did to adjust the cam follower on the mag plate, the carburetor linkage was moving about a ½ inch prematurely. So after numerous changing parts, I finally looked at this piece right here, and it's bent. And that is obvious in the video. But that roller is bent in. So what happens is the timing will be out. The synchronization between the magneto, no matter what you do, or how you adjust it. It took me just days to find this. Again, when you get these motors, you don't know what it's been through. Because I didn't pry nothing with this, or bend nothing with this. This is how I got it. So these kind of things can drive you for a loop as far as trying to get the motor to run real smooth like it should. Live and learn. Always learn something new. It's very true. So here you can see better with the roller off how bent it was, affecting my timing. So if you have a problem with the roller and you have the right parts and you can't sync it with the notch on the mag plate, on the cam plate, make sure this ain't bent. Again, it's easier to see with the roller off. Unbelievable. Actually, here in this angle, you can see how bent it is. That's supposed to be parallel to this. So that really affects the timing. The synchronization, I should say, between the spark, fuel, and the overall performance of how the motor runs. It took me days to find this. What a jerk. Hey, I'm human too. So after a little hammering and straightening, I got it back to where it's supposed to be. So now the motor should run much better. We're finding this fault. Okay. Well, here I want to point out some differences with the carburetors, just so people know. Initially, I took the upper half of an 18-horse carburetor and put that on the motor, and having multiple issues, I thought that was possibly one of the problems, but it wasn't. But I just want to point out, if you do swap carburetors, people, out there, I'm sure somewhere have done it. The 18s, the metering device, has 6 holes in it as compared to the 15, which has 2. And it's a much smaller diameter tube. So that would make it draw much more fuel up, and initially it's metered for the motor. Now, it was running with that 18-horse upper carburetor I put on there, but it turned out that was that bent cam roller was the main problem, throwing me all off. But that's one of the major differences. And also, if you swap needles, the low speeds, the high speeds, the profiles are the same. But the 18 has a different profile on the low speed. So originally, I had an 18-horse needle in the 15-horse upper I replaced. So that wasn't helping the situation either. But here you can clearly see, this is a 15, this is the 18, which came out in 1957. Totally different profile. Would it still work? Well, I don't know. I had that problem with the cam roller, so I don't know how bad it really was. The thing to do now that I have the motor running pretty good, put this 18-horse low speed in there and see if I can get it to run good with it, and that will confirm my theory. But again, just be aware of these things. just try to put the same parts back in if you can. I know sometimes it's not possible. And also the 18, the bottom bowls are exactly the same, except there's no fuel bowl on the bottom. They did away with it. They used the same casting and they just modified it. And up to 55, they had the glass bowl underneath. So that's the only other differences that I'm going to make that you should be aware of. Just be careful with the metering devices because they are definitely much bigger on the 18 compared to the 15s. And also the profile on the needles. And that's pretty much it with the carburetors. Okay. So here I replaced the pulley on my starter. It was noisy. I first changed the bushing originally, but the aluminum was worn. This wobbles back and forth. So I go through my hoard, and this only happens to me because I'm a hoarder. And I grabbed another assembly, took the pulley off, reroute the rope, re-snaked it, tied everything off, did the grip over and over again, threaded the metal insert, And it's a 10 horsepower I grabbed. The distance from here to here is smaller because it's a smaller flywheel that the 10 horses use. If you look at this one here, the distance from here to here is farther apart. So I put the recoil back on the motor and go to pull start it, and it's not engaging. I go, what the heck? And I'm so aware of this situation, but yet, because I have so many parts, I just happen to grab the wrong pulley. So now I got to find another pulley and put it back. Again, because this one is worn. Now I'm holding the camera in my hand. I can't show you, but the bushing slops around inside the boss on the pulley. Okay, so I'm going to swap it out. Not a big deal, just a little ignorance on my behalf. Here I'm adjusting the coils. I had this ring machined like 25 years ago in my old job. The guy did a nice job. Again, I was too cheap even back then to buy the proper one. But I've been using this one for years. Works great. Stainless steel. Another issue I did earlier too. This is the original reed plates that I cleaned up. Again, this is I didn't know it was the bent throttle cam rod was bent. I was causing most of my problems. But right where the screw goes, it's all gouged out, and it actually is got like a gully in it from where the screw goes to this small hole. So I don't know if that had an effect on it. I put another whole assembly in there. It probably still is good. But again, when you're not sure what the original problem is, you try to think of every possible issue that there could be. And I couldn't cool. I put the Chinese water pump impeller in there, brand new. The motor would not cool. The second time that's happened to me. Anyway, I took the water pump apart, and this is the original housing that was in there, which is I thought was in really great condition. But you got to make sure this bleed hole is always open because they get clogged up with salt or dirt, and that sometimes could affect how it primes. But also, there's a chunk missing out of here. So I think that was the main problem with this housing. Again, this housing had 3 screws on it with nuts, so somebody pried this off. When I took the motor apart, I took the 3 screws and the nuts off, and this came right off. So I didn't inflict the damage on the sidewall there. Could it be repaired? Maybe. Just get another housing for most people. And here I'm going to run it. Show you how she runs. I did modify my water tank here a little bit. I'm in the market to get a tank, so next spring I should have a tank. Now let me fill that up. I'll put this on pause. Well, let's see how she starts here. I had it running about 20 minutes ago. good. Well, this guy was a struggle. Pretty similar to the 5730 5.5 I did a few months back. A lot of labor. Originally replaced the number one rod and piston. I did that because, like I said, I broke the, I cracked the piston, and I bent the rod. It's all par for the course for me because that's just what it takes when you bring junk back. In my opinion, just from my experience, learned a lot with the carburetors. You know, you got to be careful with your needle valves, and your swapping 18 horse carburetors with the 15s could create too much fuel for the 15 if you put the 18 carburetor, even though the bore size is the same. And what else? That bent throttle cam. That was the main thing that was wrong with the motor. And also the upper carburetor, the throttle linkage spring wasn't set right. Somebody had it apart. In fact, I'm going to show you. I knew somebody tinkered with it because the end with the cotter pin was broke off and the screws weren't super tight. Usually they're peened. When they put this together at the factory, they put the screws in, and they must have some sort of die that goes in here, and they compress it to lock it up, flares the end a little bit so the screws don't vibrate out. Anyway, the screws came right out, and this spring, I fixed it. I had to take it all apart and reset it. The spring was just like kind of like moving like this with no spring back. So I took this all apart and fixed that, but ended up changing anyway because of the corrosion on the corrosion on the bosses here. I mean, it still holds the pin, but again, I used another upper carburetor half. And that's why I gotten originally the carburetor half that I replaced was the 18, and I had the different profile needle valve. So that's, you know, just I was playing ping pong for a while with the right parts. So you just really got to be careful, that's all. Most times you can get away with a lot of swapping and difference in parts, but in this case, I dodged the bullet. Can't even think about how much labor I put into it. I also changed the pulley in the pull starter because that was so worn. Every time I retracted, it sounded like a bell ringing. It was annoying the heck out of me. So, the one last run, and I'm going to go pick out another motor for another video. Folks, I got plenty of them. Anyway. Oh, it's the original water pump impeller. I put it back in. What would you do, folks? Chinese or American? An old American impeller. Brand new impeller did not work. Second time now. Got to break it in. I got two new rings on each piston, so it's going to take a little while. It should run better as it breaks in. And this motor don't have a kill button. That came out in '58. You could always put them in, but just retard the timing. The Outboard Tinkerer strikes again. Thanks for watching, folks. Stay tuned to the next project. I just reviewed my videos. I did not show it pumping water. So here you get to see it pump water with the 35, 40-year-old impeller. One tip with the kind of like test your pressure. When it's idling, you put your hand over the exhaust. Then if you increase the RPM, you'll see the volume of water just about double. I just had to get this in the video just to show you that it pumps.